I'm going to ring the Bell of Honor for Stone Cold.
Oh, my God. Don't do it.
Here he is. The Bell of Honor.
Oh, my God.
For Stone Cold.
Steve, I'm sorry you have to deal with the bell.
Welcome to the show.
That has to be the most goddamn irritating thing you could hear walking into a studio is a cowbell announcing your entrance.
The Bell of Honor?
That's right. We do it for our most honored guests.
I love the way the Bell of Honor?
Yeah.
I've never had a Bell of Honor before. I don't know how to feel about this.
I wouldn't feel. I mean, to walk into a radio studio and the cowbell is ringing.
A specially designed Bell of Honor for Steve.
Explain to me this Brillo pad that is attached to your face, Sam.
Thank you.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Steve, you know how important it is
It's terrible.
for men to have masculinity about them, and you know that's something I've struggled with for a long time.
No, not you. Not you.
I
the
don't.
man built on chicken nuggets.
And so I grew this beard because I can grow a beard.
Yeah.
And that's one of the few masculine things that I can pull off.
And as your hair kind of keeps migrating south,
That's
you
right.
got this. The other day I was talking to my wife, and I was like, I was fixing to go do some TV stuff. So I'm like, I'm trimming up my nose hairs. I've got hairs in my ears. I'm like, when all this stuff started migrating south, now it's on my back and my ears and my nose. And what the hell happened? What went wrong?
It
I don't
shifts.
know, man.
It
It
just
does.
shifts location.
It's a paradigm shift as far
Yeah.
as the hair follicles are concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it bother you?
confused. No, it didn't bother me because it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because that when you got back in pro wrestling back in the day, you had to have long hair because that was kind of like the thing to do. But when I shaved off my head, my hair, I don't want to shave off my head. That would end my life. When I shaved off my
that'd be
hair,
a shame.
yeah, it ended up being a much better look for me. So it all worked out. There's a happy ending here, Sam.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you have a good head. Like, my head is so big and my body is so slight of frame.
Yeah.
I got nowhere to go, man.
No. Don't be so negative. Don't be so hard on yourself, Sam. Come on, don't beat
But he's
yourself
right.
up.
He is right.
He is right.
That's correct. He does have a misshapen head and an awful little body.
Now, does that, I mean, normally hair being added to the back wouldn't bother you, but when you're a pro wrestler and you're walking around in little trunks all day, now you've got all this body hair that you got to shave all the time. Is that right?
Well, since I'm kind of retired, it'll be like I'll be walking around the house without my shirt on, and my wife will look at my back. The hair on my back, it'll get about 3 inches long. It's disturbing. Like those rugs you put in your bathroom? It's like my back. So my wife get the sheep shears out. So it's kind of a thing where we do it like once a quarter.
Yeah.
I
Does it itch
see.
when it comes back? Does it itch?
Do what?
Does it itch when it comes back?
No, it doesn't itch. And then one time she talked me into going to getting waxed. And man, it lays back there and just puts that stuff on, and just rips it all out of your back. I said, nah.
Hurt?
Yeah. I'm like
Man.
probably one of the toughest human beings to ever walk God's green earth.
I was just thinking that.
But when some ladies out there pulling the hairs out of my back, I'm tapping.
Can you imagine getting your bag waxed?
I do it for the right amount of money, but like on a double dog dare, no.
No.
But if I needed the money, I would.
What if you want to do it for the TV show? What if you met somebody that you were like, okay, we got this TV show. We're doing interviews, but we're going on adventures. We've done everything there is to do. It's time to get a nice Brazilian wax.
I'm passing.
You are. You can't
I'm
do
passing.
it. TV show's not bringing in that kind of
Everybody's
dough.
got a limit.
It's apparently very painful.
It is.
Very, very painful. I've never done it. I don't need to. I'm very
Come on,
hairless.
but-
I shave. It's like 3 and I'm done. I'm totally smooth.
You're totally.
Get down
You're
there with the weed whacker.
Oh, yeah. No, I keep it nice and trim. I don't want to see it gray. Like, I'm getting more gray hair, so I keep this short, and it's depressing.
neck to toe. You're bald.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow, that's.
How can you do that?
once a week.
Yeah.
I can't. When I let it go, I can see how much gray is coming in, and I'm like,
Depressing?
fuck. Yeah, I don't need to know it. Like, I know it, but I don't need to see it.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Even like with the goatee, you wake up, see a couple more gray hairs every day.
Do you do anything with it? Do you dye it at all? Or?
No, man, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you keep your head like shaved, like TV ready shaved when you're not doing TV, or if you're out on the ranch? Is there some growth coming in?
Oh, man, there's some growth, and I got that horseshoe, and it ain't cool. But every year when I still have my ranch in South Texas, that's when I'd tell my wife that's what kind of grow my stuff in like you would.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have enough time. It'd be over a 2-month span.
I see.
But I'd get, pretty good little, turn to a man again, you
Right.
know? And then I would keep this with just my my peanut clipper, just so, because when that kind of starts growing in, but you got the horseshoe, that I would keep that at a certain length, but I'd let this go.
I see,
And towards the end of deer season, after 2 months of solid growth, I really started feeling a lot more manly.
That's why I grew this. You feel more manly.
And then, of course, I got to go back to L.A. and do stuff, so I got to shave it off.
Right.
But now that I've been doing so much TV, like I'll shave about every other day just so I can keep everything nice and tight. Because when you start letting all this get out of control, it's easy to keep manicured and looking good if you stay on top of it. So that's what I'm
Plus
doing. I'm using
consistency.
beard butter. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. The conditioner.
When you shoot, you want to look the same every day. You can't look different and have
Yeah.
long hair one day and short hair the next day.
When you went back to Raw a couple weeks ago, did they have the beard guys there? Have you seen that the WWE's got beard guys at the shows now?
Man.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw my phone through the window. They got a beard guy.
There's beard trimmers at every show now.
Yeah.
Like two or three guys.
That's
that
what
sit
that's
there.
what Sam thought he was. Some guy took Sam into his car and caressed his beard. And Sam's like, "Do you work for them?" And the guy went, "Yeah."
No, I didn't know that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
to your point, there are a lot of guys on the show rocking these new beards.
That's right.
It's kind of like the end thing to do. Like we used
Absolutely.
to want the long hair back in the day. These days, it's all about a big ass beard.
Right. Now, do you feel pressure, especially when you're doing TV, that you got to keep the goatee because you just have to look like Stone Cold? You figured out your look. You got to keep the look now.
It's not about looking like Stone Cold. It just, when you don't have any hair anymore and you've been used to seeing me with a goatee for so long. I remember when I shaved the mustache off many years ago just to do like a low budget movie, and I just had this, and I appeared to promote the Expendables, and all of a sudden all I had was just this chin piece without the stash, and everybody's like, who is this freak? You don't look the same.
We don't want him. We wanted Stone Cold.
So this is the best look for me. And although I've been married and stuff like that for 15 years, I'm not trying to be an international
You're not trying to be a sex symbol and meet
sex
girls.
symbol.
You're
Yeah,
faithful.
this is the look that suits me.
I have a question about hunting too, because you're in the woods all day. Have you gotten ticks?
Oh man, you got to watch the ticks, man.
That freaks me out. Lyme
Lupus,
disease scares me.
Lyme disease, all kinds of stuff.
I got to pull him off my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's different.
Of course it's different.
Yeah, and you can also bust out a cigarette lighter. There's all kinds of tick
Right.
stories we get into, but yeah, maybe not. But yeah, man, to your point, man, one time me and my brother went out and you got this deer. So I figured, oh man, I'm a big macho dude, been in the gym, so I'll just pick the damn thing up, throw it on my shoulders. I carried that thing for about 300 yards, put it in the trunk of a Camaro. This is way back in the day. And man, I just had ticks all over me because you don't realize how many ticks
They're
those things
infested.
have on me. I'm like pulling these things. I bought a flea collar. Because flea collars also.
Oh, you really did?
Yeah, I actually did. I wore it. I'm kidding.
You sound like half the women I fucked.
But yeah, I don't carry deer like that anymore. And I'm lucky some idiot wasn't out there and shot the deer while I was carrying them on my shoulder.
Right. That would've been an easy kill.
They see me laying there with the deer. Hey, we got the bonus plan.
That scares me though, because that messes you up and you don't even know you have it. So I avoid the woods. But hunters, I'm like, how do these guys not get them all the time?
Man, when you take a shower, just check your body, and if you see one, feel one, whatever, get that summit off of you.
Yeah.
Is that what you do? Just pull it, or do you have your own method?
Or you burn it or put Vaseline, I think, right?
Yeah, you pull it, get some tweezers, make sure you get the little prongs out of there.
Yeah,
there's
the
a
head.
whole, how did we come here to talk about a show and end up talking about ticks?
It's important.
Well, I'll
It's
tell you,
important.
I want to promote the show. Sam didn't want to, but I wanted to ask you.
This is one of the things that ticks me off about this show.
You see?
There you go.
There it
Perfect.
is.
So who are some of your guests?
You
Work
know who
with
the
me.
guests are.
No, but I wanted Steve to say it.
Work with me here.
Yeah.
Man, we had Gabriel Iglesias on there, fluffy guy. He's like one of the hardest touring comedians out there right now.
He's incredible.
He's like a road warrior because, like, 52 weeks in a year, he's out 46 of them.
Yeah.
He's like the boys. And,
Yeah.
he's got this compound in Long Beach. And he built it because he's such a fan. He built this like an exact replica of how WWE would do something. He's got his 18-wheeler with his merch on there. He's got his bus
Yeah.
when he goes out on tour, and he's serious about it. And he's crushing it. So
Doing arenas and theater, that son of a bitch makes a lot of money. Gabriel
He
Iglesias is a hugely successful
Can I tell you
guy.
how I know how big of a fan Fluffy is? I interviewed him, and we got to talking about wrestling, and I asked him for stories or whatever. First story he told me is that one time I got to take a shit in Stone Cold's house.
Oh, no. Hope you moved.
He blew up my damn toilet. And the thing about it was, I think it was like the first time or second time he came over to do the show, but the first time he came over, I was kind of like in one of those fitness kicks. Depending on what I'm trying to do, I like to drink. And so, little secret here. So anyway, but when I'm trying to get in shape for a show, well, then you got to cut back on the alcohol. So at the time Fluffy came over, I wasn't really drinking. So he shows up at 11 in the morning with a fifth of Jacks, some tequila, Patron Silver, and a 6-pack of beer. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? I thought it was kind of like a formality. But Fluffy brings all that shit over, you got to start drinking it. So we're hammered. He had to get his assistant or whatever it was to drive him home, and messed up the rest of my day. My wife was really impressed. But man, yeah, we had a really good time. I got to hang out with Becky Lynch, the man, and I've known Becky for a long time, but to spend, when we film this show, it's a half-hour show, but it takes all day to film it, and we're doing different setups, different activities, stuff that, that would come from my world or that would come from someone else's world, and we're doing it together. And I get a chance to learn about them and what got them to be successful or what drives them. It's like a talk show where we're getting to know each other and doing activities to help facilitate the process.
What's something you did that you would probably not have done otherwise?
What was one of those things done? We did.
Brazilian wax?
Other than the Brazilian wax, I put an apple on my head and let Trace Adkins, with a bow and arrow, shoot the apple off my head.
Really?
No, but it sounded
amazing. I was ready to tune in.
Man, we went down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and hung out with Dale Earnhardt Jr. And I'm a huge car fan and race fan, and sort of hang out with that guy. And then we're riding around his pickup truck, and he drives slow as molasses. Get him out on track, it's a whole different story. And to find out why he ended up leaving the business, kind of. Not for the same reasons I left, but there's always kind of like there's
parallels,
an end point, parallels, and to go to Cleveland and hang out with Baker Mayfield, and to get a dose of what that guy is.
Who's Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield was a Heisman Trophy winner and first guy taken in an NFL draft a season ago, and then came in for Cleveland.
Can't believe you didn't know that.
And Tyrod Taylor goes down with an injury, so he comes in 3-4 games in the season and throws 27 touchdowns. He broke Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson's touchdown record and didn't really start the entire season. So just a very accurate quarterback, came with some controversy. He was never, ever plan A, even coming out of Lake Travis, and he walked on at Texas Tech, got an injury, walked on to OU, Oklahoma, and then got drafted number 1 and won the Heisman. So he's just this guy who was never supposed to be the guy, but he is. And he just has this air of confidence, and he's very charismatic, and guys rally around him. So I got a chance to really meet and hang out with a lot of people out here. And Sam, I've been off the road for a long time.
Yeah.
So to get back on the road, it was kind of fun.
You liked it?
Well, yeah, because I always think when you travel as much as we did, you kind of turn into a zombie, and you're going through everything. You're making your towns. You're going to the gym. You train, do all your stuff. You show up at the building. You work your ass off, and it's off to the next gig. And that's just life. But when I had to leave, after WrestleMania 19, and it took me 3 years to turn back into a civilian. So I don't really like to travel anymore. But to travel for this show and go meet some of the people that I've met, and to go to some of the towns, which we used to sell out every single time we went to, it's cool to go back to those places.
It's probably also nice knowing there's an end point here. I'm filming X number of episodes, and then I'm back to life.
Yeah, and to get on Becky's grind, well, and a lot of these, because Fluffy was on the grind. Hell, he brought his tour bus, because we got a chance to film that actually in L.A. So he brought his tour bus down, so he would just hang there. But yeah, everybody's doing their thing, and for me to get back out on the road or to do most of these in L.A., and I can be back at the crib.
What do you think? You talked about having Becky Lynch on. What do you think of the fact that, she goes on this run that started about a year ago, and for the last year or so, every conversation about her is, she's the next Stone Cold. She's the next Stone Cold. Your comparison to her comes up more often than just about anything.
Yeah, it does. I think it's because we both came from pro wrestling, right? And because she also gets a lot of comparisons to Conor McGregor.
Yep.
Because she's Irish.
Yep.
And he is too. But, man, I think she's done things. There's parallels, surely. But I think she's kind of one in her own, and she has been on a hot streak. And to come up with that gimmick, and I asked her on the show, I said, hey, man, when you pitch this, and I don't want to give it away, but, I love that gimmick.
The man?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Premier. I mean, she's a very talented woman wrestler, and very beautiful, and she's the man.
Right.
I dig it.
Right.
Yep, sounds like my life.
Yeah. And you know what? She's alpha, and
Yep.
she takes control of the situation. She's very articulate. She's very eloquent, and she's very confident. I got a chance to find out exactly how confident she was. You know, spending 12 hours of a day with her and doing different things, and she's just very charismatic and just a tremendous sense of humor. And the bottom line is, she's very persistent, very goal-oriented, and she's just relentless as far as her drive. So her success does not surprise me.
Do you turn a lot of things down? Like, because you the shows you do, you're always great on. So it's like you probably get a lot of things that you don't want to do. Do you just do stuff that you think is going to be fun?
Man, when I first moved to LA many years ago, and this is 3 years after, I retired from the business, it took me a long time to come to grips with that. And then I finally said, I had no desire on being an actor, but I said, hey, man, just based on your past, you might want to take your ass out to L.A. And so I started doing some low-budget stuff. And then when I started getting a chance to host with Tough Enough, when
Yeah.
they reincarnated it, that's when I kind of fell in love with, the reality aspect of television, and did, Redneck Island and Broken Skull Challenge, and some rocket scientists pulled the plug on that. And then the best shows on TV.
Yeah.
And then they get approached with this thing, and it sounded like, man, this is cool because I get a chance to be me, talk to people. I've been doing a podcast for 6 years. And that being said, I had a lot to learn because, it's kind of like, it's a version of my podcast, but we're doing activities. And all of a sudden, Sam, you've been to my house.
316 Gimmick
Yeah,
Street.
and I've got a picture of you and me sitting there. And
Please tell me it's not hanging up.
Of course it is. I signed it for him.
but it was just you and me in a room, shooting
Yeah.
a breeze, 2 cats.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden you've got 85 people and you're
Yeah.
filming a bunch of activities. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot to learn. And just as far as blocking cameras, this, that, or whatever. So to answer your question, yeah, I really just want to do things that I'm interested in. And when they pitched this, I said, man, it sounds like a great idea. And when you go into that first season, you're what's the language parameters on
You
this?
say
You can
whatever
say
you
whatever
want.
you want.
Okay, so I mean, really, you have a plan, but you're throwing shit on the wall. Okay, what sticks? Well, that's kind of sliding down, but we like it. So it's kind of like this work in progress that you're tweaking, and so hopefully, this first season goes well, and then we can apply. As I look at the cuts that they're putting together based on what we did, I can say okay, and get the beats, and I'm kind of finding myself as that interviewer or that person as compared to like when you and I talked or whatever, because on a one-on-one thing and all these people with different agendas, different information to cover, there's a lot going on. So hopefully, we find our way, we find our place. People find the channel and they tune in and set their effing DVR.
When you go back to a WWE arena, it's the first time in years when you did Raw Reunion a couple weeks ago, I would imagine it's impossible for you to get out of that building without being pitched 100 ways to come back and do something.
No, nobody pitched anything.
Really?
No. And the thing about that day was, it was so fun, man. I was just looking forward to it because it really was. They built it as like a family reunion, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
And like all the guys showed up, and Flair called me as soon as he got there. And, Wendy said, hey, man, we're down at the bar. And I was waiting all day. I was supposed to do a podcast that day with Booker T, but me and Booker T had our dates crossed up.
Uh-huh.
He didn't show up till the next day. So anyway, I'm like, I wasted a whole day. And now all of a sudden, Flair's down at the bar at 4:30. And let me clarify, he was down there hanging at the bar.
Right.
I went down, and Flair starts telling stories. I have a couple of cold ones.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but it was great to see all the guys and girls. And I remember going up to the elevator to get my room service and then come back down for one more round. Flair was gone. And the door opens on floor number 5, and there's Ron Simmons. And I told this story in that promo. As like we both saw each other, and Ron is like this beast of a man, right? And we had these giddy smiles on our face, and we just hugged for like 30 seconds. It was the most manly hug in history. and he's like hugging a refrigerator. And so we go back down, and it was such a blast. And when I got out there, for the for that promo section, it was really weird because in that world, I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
I'm the toughest SOB to lace up a pair of boots, stomp mud holes on people, and walk them dry. Well, when I get the creative, I go in there and have a quick meeting with Vince. Hey, man, you're going to close the show. Did you get a promo? I said, yeah. They gave me a couple of paragraphs with some shit on it. I said, I kind of look a little sappy. And then, I talked to a couple of guys. I ran it by Pritchard. He goes, well, it's live TV. All you got to do is go out there and, don't, as long as it doesn't suck, the old man will be happy. And I don't work off memory anyway.
Right.
And so, and the thing about it was there was a lot of moving parts out there. So I'm going out there to thank the people, thank my brothers and sisters being on the road. It's very unstone cold like.
Right.
And more Steve Austin like, because I do appreciate all my, brothers and sisters. So to go out there in front of that crowd, when I went out there, the roof blew off the place.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Because you go out, right, and it's not just the roof blowing off the place, but first Ric Flair gets the introduction.
Yep.
Then Hulk Hogan gets the introduction. Then it's Stone Cold. And I mean, no disrespect to either of those two guys, but your reaction eclipsed either of their reactions. Are you sitting there listening to that going like, holy shit, this is it. I'm number one.
Well, man, you live and die by it. Anybody tells you any different, they're lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I was like, God dang, and you're thankful for it because I've been gone a long time.
Yeah.
So I was very appreciative of it. I go in there, hit some corners, grab those beers, and then when I hit that first turnbuckle and throw my arms up, this ring right here just flies off my hand into the crowd and hits the barricade. And it's laid there on the floor, and I'm on live TV with my hands up in the air, and I'm like, there's my effing ring right there. And I went to the other one. I kept marking my ring. Well, I've known all those camera guys and all the cable guys, sound guys for 25 years. They saw what happened. They picked up my ring because I didn't want a fan to reach over and grab my ring.
Think you would have
I've had
gotten it
this thing
back?
forever.
Yeah.
But it was weird because when I watched it back finally, I had partied with Flair for 2 nights in a row, and he was nursing a Bud Light because everybody say, oh, he's down at the bar, he's drinking, he's not supposed to be doing that. He was nursing a Bud Light where I was the one throwing back the cocktails.
Right.
So when I go out there, my voice is halfway blowed out from partying
Partying
with Flair 2
2
nights in a row and then talking with all the WWE superstars, and to see all the guys that I was on the road with and hug them and talk about the old times and then see someone new and say, hey, man, come over here. You might want to try this. Think about this. You're trying to pass along some information, but it was a blast just going there. But no, they didn't pitch me anything.
Who's
Wow.
Ron Simmons?
Ron Simmons.
Do wrestling
Ron
fans like my
Simmons.
questions?
Wrestling fans hate
Sam,
your questions.
You say.
Well, Ron Simmons first of all, he's the first WCW black heavyweight champion of the
Okay.
world. Was he an All-American football
I think
player?
he's 2-time All-American at Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State, and I mean,
He's a
accolades.
in college football, he's a legend.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
he's legit one of the toughest guys ever.
Ron Simmons could come in here and just say the ABCs and make you shit your pants. He has that kind of voice.
That
And he's
energy,
the
yeah.
nicest guy in the world. But even nobody, and everybody knows how tough the Steiner brothers were. Their shooters are tough and they're a little bit out there. Sweethearts. I mean, they're great guys. But nobody messed with Ron Simmons ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, I guess, more for Jim, who doesn't have the encyclopedic wrestling knowledge that some of us do. But I don't know if Jim knows everything that old Stone Cold did in his heyday. What comes to mind when I think of like my favorite things that Stone Cold did to Mr. McMahon was probably the episode where you had Vince McMahon on national television pissing himself.
Yeah.
Quite literally. You put a gun to his head, he pissed himself, you pulled the trigger, and a little flag came out that said bang 316 while Vince has piss all over his pants. Was there anything that was pitched to you to do in that era where you were like, we can't do this. I'm not doing this.
Man, that actual incident, I was like, man, if I'm holding a gun to his hand, that's kind of graphic.
Yeah.
Or I was thinking about one of the times when me and Kane were going to have a first blood match, and he said if he lost the match, he was going to set himself on fire. And I'm thinking, okay, if I go out there and endorse this, people are going to be setting themselves on fire.
Yeah.
Because I thought people might be taking some of these things a little too literally
Yeah.
or seriously. So along the way, there was a couple things that were kind of so edgy. I kind of thought, yeah, there could be repercussions repercussions from this, but at the end of the day, I always said, let's go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think that I would have said, hey, when they said, hey, well, you're going to go bust into Pillman's house and you're going to break out his window with a baseball bat, and then Pillman's going to pull a gun on you, and maybe shots are fired or maybe they're not fired, but and they got in a lot of trouble for that for USA.
Especially, I
Network.
mean, that's before wrestling even got edgy. That's the
Yeah.
beginning of all
and,
this.
And no pun intended, but it was like a shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, oh, you crossed the line. And I was saying it's like when you're wrestling, when you cross, a line because of what you are. And that was kind of like being construed as being so real. That's why we crossed the line.
Right.
But I love that angle.
Yeah. I thought it was so great because it felt real. Like all of a sudden
it
you're
was.
invested in this thing.
I got that damn bullet wound right here.
He shot you.
I have a question too about because Hot Dog is a big fan, and you're standing in there. Do you have any questions you want to ask into that mic?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
have a
Hot
question?
Dog's
He's a
my
huge
guy.
fan. He came in early for you.
Yeah. We
Ask
told
a good
I'm just a
question.
big fan.
Ask the question you wanted to
Ask
ask.
the
Hot
question.
Dog.
Don't
Go
be
ahead.
shy. Ask
Stone
him.
Cold's got
Go.
headphones
Stone
on.
Cold, right here.
Ask him, Hot
No,
Dog.
see,
Ask-
you're putting me on the spot right now. I
Ask
have
him,
no
Hot
questions.
Dog.
I'm a huge fan. Nice to meet you.
Do you don't want to ask
Nice
him
to
a
meet you,
question?
too.
No, I'll just listen to you guys. That's fine.
All right, I know he wanted to ask.
I cannot believe I flew all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast. I'm sitting here, and Hot Dog ain't got a question for me.
Steve, you know how you talk about
Isn't
the
it
young
something?
guys in wrestling that you got to make the most of your moments, right?
Yep.
They give you this. They give you TV time. They give you what it is, but you get out there and you make the most of your moments. We just gave Hot Dog what's known in the business as an opportunity,
as a fan.
and he
Yeah.
blew it,
He
didn't
blew
he?
it.
Yeah.
He blew it.
Yep.
Hot Dog, you got anything?
Sorry.
Hey man, check this out. One time we was over in San Diego. It was a Royal Rumble. I think it was the first or second year I was in WWF back in the day, and I was going to be like the number 4 guy left. At the end of the Royal Rumble. I mean, they're kind of starting to build me by making me the number 4 guy that was going to be thrown out or lasting. And so all of a sudden, Fatu Jr., Rikishi, I can't remember. Everybody's wearing baby oil. And so basically he's going to clothesline me over the top. I'm just going to, basically land on the apron, come back in. Hell, he hit me so hard with that damn clothesline. It was zip, zip, zip. I'm on the damn floor of the San Diego sports arena. And I was an integral part of the end of the thing because Shawn Michaels was involved. And there I am laying on the floor outside of the ring. I had effed up to the maximum degree you can. And all of a sudden, I got to give Shawn the Iggy that, I've been eliminated and I'm not supposed to be eliminated for quite some time here. And so I'm looking over the apron. I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. And Shawn's eyes while he's getting the shit beat out of him in the middle of the ring are like, and so there was my opportunity, and
Right.
I was like,
you hot dogged it.
I hot dogged it, but I was like, man, they're giving you an opportunity, you just completely effed it up.
Well, to be fair, though, you had a big Samoan man throwing his body weight into you, knocking you over the top rope. Hot Dog, he couldn't have had a smoother landing, and he still fucked it
Yeah,
up.
we said go ahead, ask Stone Cold a question. He's right here.
You've gotten nice in your age, Stone Cold.
Well, I'm trying to be. Well, it's not like I'm trying to be the Dalai Lama. Is that his name?
I think
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
By the way,
I'm like a goodwill ambassador.
Right.
I'm trying to watch the language.
no, you
here.
can curse. It's
Good.
okay. We'll beep it up.
Okay,
now,
well-
are you a big? Do you ever meet Chief Jay Strongbow?
Dude, when I first came into, and this goes back to when it was still F, Chief Jay Strongbow was cool, man, because he was one of the guys, along with Briscoe, Slaughter, Blackjack Lanza, took me under his wing. George Animal Steel had a lot of great advice for me, and Jay was super old school, and it was all about saving your money, and he was very instrumental in giving me a lot of advice.
It probably is weird what a lot of those guys would talk about too. Things that you would never expect, the money and investing and all this stuff that guys you wouldn't think that they would talk to you about.
Way back in the day when you could still buy a house for a relatively small amount of money, back in the territory days, because you never knew how long you were going to last in the territory, most of the boys way back in the day, and again, the houses were way more cost efficient than they are these days, but you always bought a house. If you bought a house, you bought it in cash. You bought it in cash because no one could take it from you. You didn't have to make any payments on it.
Right.
And that was your security blanket. If you got hurt, if a promotion shit canned you, that was the one thing that you had. And so that was just a mentality from the boys way back in the day.
And you learned that from Chief Jay?
Well, that was Chief Jay and a lot of the guys did that. And then I'll never forget riding on an airplane one time, and Terry Taylor had his tray up in front of him. This is probably in the early '90s, and he's got receipts everywhere. I said, Terry, I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm just writing down all my receipts, all my costs and everything like that for my taxes. So, he was kind of ahead of the curve as far as, keeping track of all of his expenses. I had a fanny pack. Hell, some of it's just full, about a pound worth of paper, and all the other bullshit that we carried, most of which is illegal these days. But, he was one of those guys who kind of, took care of the business aspect of it while he had some downtime on an airplane.
Right.
I was usually drinking, Bloody Marys or whatever.
Having a good time.
Yeah.
Making a time of it.
Living
for
the
yourself.
life,
Yeah,
man. That's
why
what
not?
you did.
Why not? You took a break from podcasting. You were running some repeats on the old Steve Austin show, which is back. You've had, what, Hulk Hogan, Mark Henry. No, you haven't done. Who'd you have from AEW?
Tony Khan.
Tony Khan on. That's the one. But you took like a 6-month hiatus where they were running repeats. What happened?
Man, I just needed a break. I'd had several things go on, and I'd kind of just hit the ceiling or hit the wall, and I needed just a break to chill my brain out and have time, man. I love people, and I want to give you a hug right now. But by the same token, man, I can be pretty antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to go to the ranch, man, I shut the gates. If I didn't see another human being for 2 months, man, I'm good. So anyway, I just kind of hit the wall there for a little bit, needed a little bit of a break, kind of reset and recharge the battery, and I'm getting all these emails. I mean, like, emails with some hate and some tone in them, like, hey, man, how fucking long are you going to take a break for? and it was like, it's weird. So, I mean, I was happy that people wanted me back on the air as much as they did.
Yeah.
So anyway, after a break, and I wanted to come back because the thing I love about the podcast and the reason I started the podcast, I'd wanted to start one about a year before I did, but I don't know anything about technology, how to get started or do whatever. And so my agents called me and they said, hey, man, we just got a phone call from Podcast One. Do you want to do a podcast? And I said, you damn right I do. And so we went and took the meeting and it started up. And Sam, the thing about that was, when you leave WWE, that's a huge platform to, promote anything that you have. So, I mean, hell, I might as well be out there in the corner of Lincoln and Washington there in Marina Del Rey with a damn bullhorn. Hey, I got a CD for sale or whatever. You don't have that voice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my podcast is at a much smaller level, I mean, much, than what the WWE platform is, it is a voice for me to stay in direct contact, to stay in contact with all the fans that it took me, through all the years of wrestling to build up, and a direct line of communication.
And they help promote a lot. Podcasts are great
yeah.
because it's a targeted thing. People who are listening really want to listen, and they actually do better than a lot of radio shows. Podcasts are great for promotion.
And that, not only that,
I added nothing, by the way, by saying
no,
that.
but on that point, what I say about something, I mean, it'll get picked up and it'll make the wires. So I mean, you don't have to just listen to my podcast. You can be reading the internet, and something that Stone Cold or Steve Austin said on his podcast is going to get traction. So it keeps my presence there to help me push all the things that I'm doing.
Do you feel like you're going to do that kind of cycle where you do it for 6 months, you'll take 6 months off, you'll go back and forth, or just as long as it's fun, you'll keep doing it?
I purely needed a break, and now the thing is, it was so hard because during many of those years, I would go into production, whether it was Redneck Island down there in Mexico, and I've got no material, whether it's Broken Skull Challenge, I'm working 14-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
Before you do a podcast, you've got to do some research.
Yeah.
What might be an hour or an hour and a half show, you might have put 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever kind of prep you put into that show. You ain't got time to do that when you're in production. You're working your ass off. So that was one of the things that kind of led to needing a break. But I'll continue the podcast for quite some time.
Do you think you'd be keeping up with wrestling if not for the podcast? Because you talk about the current product all the time. But do you think you'd be watching it on that level if you weren't doing the podcast?
Yeah, because, man, I love the business, and I DVR all the shows, and then if someone says, hey, man, check this out because this is a cool angle, or someone comes along with a lot of potential, then I'll kind of see where they're at or what people are saying about them or seeing in them and see if I see those same things. So I would still stay in touch with the business because I don't know if this sounds when I came up and I couldn't be, a rock and roll star, being a professional wrestler was my lifelong dream. And I had to ride off into the sunset after, give or take, 13 years. And, gone for a year with a neck injury, gone for 6 or 8 months because I basically said, hey, go F yourself when they wanted me to job out for Brock Lesnar, which I would have been happy to do the job, had it been a built match in the right time. It was just bad timing. So I wasn't in the business that long when you really think about it. But that's one of my biggest passions in life is professional wrestling.
What do you think of Kevin Owens' stunner? Kevin Owens is a wrestler on SmackDown. He's doing the stunner, which is Stone Cold's finisher, as his finisher. That's for the audience, not for you.
Right. He's coming around, a little bit different approach than I got, but he's coming around, and I'm glad he's using it because I like Kevin Owens. And it was funny, many years ago, I can't remember, I think it was Toronto or some airport somewhere, and he just came up to me and introduced himself to me. I'd never heard of him. He goes, "Hey, I'm Kevin Steen, and I'm trying to get in business. Well, I am a wrestler, and do you have any advice for me?" And he tells a story. I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "You need to learn how to cut a promo." I said, "Learn how to run your mouth, kid." Easy for me to say. Learn how to run your mouth, kid. Hell, he took it to heart.
Yeah.
So now he's like an A+ promo.
Yeah, he told me, you said never stop talking, and
Never
that's
stop
why
talking.
when he's in the ring mid-match, he just talks nonstop.
Yeah, but back in the day, he had all these crazy moves that he's doing. I said, "Man, all the moves, you can only do those, for so long, but you can run your mouth forever. So as long as you have a base, you need your offense, you need your move set, you need to be able to work. He can as well as anyone, but you've got to have that character to make people believe in you or have something to love or hate about you, and then back it up to sell tickets with words."
Well, that's the lesson, isn't it? If anybody can prove that you can run your mouth forever, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's still running his mouth.
That's
He's
right.
got a
Still running my
podcast. He's
mouth.
got a TV show.
But when you go back and look at my move set, shit, what I did. I flipped people off. I had a stomp in a corner and a big right hand, and that was about it.
A Luthez press every now and then.
Yeah, and a stunner.
That's it.
And towards the end, I was drinking for a living and wrestling on the side. But it all worked.
Did anybody get pissed that you said shit on Raw?
I didn't care if they did or not. It fit. That was an organic shit. Yeah.
Organic shits are the best, aren't they?
Sure.
Want more Jim and Sam? Catch up with full episodes and interviews from celebrity guests anytime on demand using the SiriusXM app.